This podcast replay is brought to you by Choice Mortgage Bank. Fixed mortgage rates under 3.5%. Military veterans, 0 down, 100% financing. Call the owner's cell phone right now. Michael Codsey, 561-441-2730. That's 561-441-2730.
Little Bucks, as the Bucks pulled it off yesterday, 38-35 to improve to 6-7. And the man that has to cover the Bucks and the erratic Jameis Winston on an everyday basis is Greg Auman from The Athletic. And, of course, you can follow him on Twitter like I and so many others do at Greg Auman, A-U-A-M-A-N. Greg, good afternoon, my friend. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well. Hope you are as well.
I am doing great, my man. Yesterday they pull out the game 38-35, 10 points in the fourth quarter. Big time for them overall. So talk to me a little bit about this season. Where are we with Jameis Winston's development, and where do you think Bruce is with him at this point?
You know, he's kind of doing the whole I have to wait till the end of the season to make an evaluation kind of thing. But you know, the fact that they've stayed with him as steadfast as they have this season through, 23 interceptions and 5 fumbles lost, I think they want to move forward with him. I don't know if it'll be a long-term deal. It could just be a one-year deal or a franchise deal. But, he's among the leaders in yardage and touchdowns for the entire league. So you just have to balance that and say, can you get him to do that and just cut his interceptions by half or by a third if he could? Something to get him to where he's a little more careful with the football. That's been the story with him for 5 years now, is too many interceptions, too many turnovers.
What's your story, Greg? What do you see? You see it every day. What's your gut? What's your heart tell you? Who is this guy? What's he going to develop into?
Yeah, I think to look at the circumstances right now, Bruce Arians is 67, and I don't know that he came out of retirement to take on a project with a rookie quarterback in year 2, or another quarterback who probably might be a little safer than Jameis, but probably not the playmaker that he is. So my instinct is that they stick with him. The Buccaneers have never had a franchise quarterback here in terms of somebody that can command a second contract, that can, Jameis is 25, and he has the team's career records already for yards, for touchdowns. So I think they know how hard it is to find even a good quarterback. So if they have any inclination that he can be a great one at some point down the road, I think they want to be patient with him, probably more so than most of their fans right now.
Well, that's that. So the fan base is kind of want him. Is the fan base kind of run out of patience with him? Is that what it is?
No, I think the fan base is divided. I think it kind of jumps from week to week, whether they win or they lose. They've won 3 straight games right now. Some of it because of Jameis Winston, some of it despite Jameis Winston. But like last week, we put out a poll on Twitter, had like 2,000 people respond, and I think it was 67% that wanted him back, whether on a franchise tag or on a long-term deal. So that's impressive. That's 2/3 right now. I think when we did the same poll 2 weeks before that, when they weren't quite as successful, he was polling in the mid-40s, as they say. So right now, I think he does have a decent amount of fan sentiment behind him. Again, we don't know how much it's going to cost to them to keep him. If it's a franchise tag, that's like $27 million, which is not easy. They paid him $21 million this year, so that's even less money to put into a supporting cast around him to try and get the defense better, to try and get the run game better. But like I said, if I'm guessing right now, I think he's back there next year.
Yeah, but Greg, that's the catch-22 to it, right? Because if you tag him, that's a hard cap number. Whereas if you can sign him to a long-term contract, you can kind of fudge the numbers a little bit. You can play with the signing bonus, as you and I know. You can backload it a little bit more, give the team a little bit more flexibility to put a better team around him. But if you don't trust him to the point of giving him $50 million up front, then you're going to have to tag him. And by tagging him, how is their cap situation? Because that creates problems for anybody and everybody that has to do that.
Yeah, they actually have a fair amount of room. They've got what looks to be 22 free agents, so they'll have a lot of people they have to sign. But they have about $90 million in cap space. So obviously Jameis would be a big chunk of that. They've got to re-sign Shaq Barrett, who's leading the NFL in sacks, Jason Pierre-Paul and Dominican Sue. They've got lots of needs they would have to fill if they don't re-sign a lot of these free agents. So even though they have $90 million, it can go kind of quickly.
Is the head coach there for a long time? Is that because you just mentioned his age, and he's had his health issues? How long does Bruce give this? How long do you think he'll stick around to try to maximize what he can there in Tampa?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think he's good for 3 or 4 years. I think if things go right for him, he's won something at that point, whether it's a division title, whether it's a playoff game. Can go out with a winning team here and maybe pass it along to one of the assistants he has here. I mean, he's got a ton of assistants who have been with him for a long time. So whether that's giving it to Todd Bowles, who's the defensive coordinator, or Byron Leftwich, who at 39 is now calling plays as the offensive coordinator, I think the most likely scenario, or what he would like to do, is get this team winning, get this team in the playoffs, and then hand it off to somebody he thinks can take the reins from him and then continue things the same way he's doing it. But again, that's a couple of big ifs between now and then.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Greg Auman, of course, from The Athletic, Tampa Bay, covering the Bucs on a daily basis. Greg, how's this team look for next year? Is this the kind of team that Bucs fans can feel that they have a shot at the playoffs next year? Because you're at 6-7 now, so you're hovering right around 500. But you said they've got 22 free agents. So you tell me, how's the future look for Tampa Bay for them to kind of turn the corner and get back to the postseason?
No, I think the momentum is certainly on the upswing here. I mean, they've been 5-11 the last 2 years, so to be 6-7 is already progress in the right direction. They've got to go to the Detroit Lions on Sunday. Lions have dropped 9 of their last 10, so that's certainly a game they could win there. So to see them at 500 in mid-December is something we haven't seen in a while here. They did that in 2016 and just missed the playoffs at 9-7. But aside from that, this is my 7th year on the beat. That's the only other time they've been that good that late. So I do think things are trending upward to where, if they're a 7 or 8 win team next year, with some of the division in flux, with possibly a new coach in Atlanta, we already know a new coach in Carolina. I think the expectation would be that they're right there in the thick of things for a wild card in 2020.
Let me ask you something. Do you think they would take a quarterback in the draft?
They could. I mean, like I said, their every action and word to this point has been extremely supportive of Jameis Winston. So it could be that they know they don't have other options right now, and if they see somebody in the draft or if they see somebody like Teddy Bridgewater they're enamored with, they could certainly turn the page and start a new chapter with a different quarterback. This is a quarterback class that should have some good stuff. I mean, right now they're picking number 16, so you're not going to get Burrow. You're not going to get Tua at that point. You're not going to get Herbert at that point. So you're looking at maybe the third or fourth quarterback in a class. Usually that isn't somebody you're terribly excited about, but maybe there's somebody they like as a second-tier quarterback that they would either have in competition with Winston or just, displacing him entirely. But right now I think it's more likely to be Winston back here next year.
Godwin, this guy, I mean, did you see this coming? I mean, the way he's developed the last couple of years and how he's become just an absolute stud.
Yeah, I think we definitely wrote a lot about how ascending he was and how excited people were for him. I don't know if I thought he'd be top 3 in the NFL in yards and top 5 in touchdown catches like he is. No, I mean, he's made some amazing catches. He made a catch on a short pass this Sunday that, again, you're not sure how he caught it. He made a touchdown catch on a ball that was thrown behind him and low that, again, I don't think he knows how he caught it. He's got great instincts in terms of yards after the catch. He's on pace for just under 1,500 yards right now. So, I mean, I think everybody thought he'd be a strong number 2 to Mike Evans. But, I mean, it'll be a real slight if he isn't in the Pro Bowl when things get going in Orlando here in January.
So is the contract coming? I mean, are they going to let him play out because he's going to go into his final year next year. I think I'm looking at it here. He's got a base salary of $768,000 next year, a cap hit of $966. I mean, this is the best bargain in the NFL right now. I would imagine that they're not going to allow him to play the final season of his contract, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, it depends on how quickly he wants to move on. He's actually going to make about $2 million this coming year. They have a thing that rewards players.
Oh,
to
that's
play a lot
right.
when they're a lower round pick.
Yes.
So again, $2 million is still an amazing bargain for a guy who has 9 touchdown catches with 3 games left in the season. So yeah, I mean, he's going to be, when he gets a deal, he's going to be a 13, 14, $15 million a year receiver. And it's hard for NFL teams to pay 2 guys like that. Mike Evans is already in the book for $16 million. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. So if they do make a move to get him this year, that's great. It might keep a little bit off the top of what he'll cost them a year from now when he's potentially an unrestricted free agent. This has been a very steady emergence for him from a quiet rookie year to having 7 touchdowns last year to now being, a top 10, if not top 5 receiver in the NFL from a production standpoint. So it's exciting for Godwin. I'll be curious to see whether they can use some of this year's cap space to avoid that being an issue or a question mark a year from now. They're very pleased with not only what he does, but how he does it here. So they'd like to have him back if at all possible.
Yeah, and Greg, you mentioned something really important. Nobody really pays 2 receivers like that. And Mike has an $18.3 million cap hit next year, and then it drops to 13.5 after that, and 15 and 16. But are they going to be able to manage that down the line like that to keep those 2 big salaries like that? And then if you got to tag Winston, wow, that really starts to take up a lot of space right there.
Right. Well, the problem is that we're talking about investing more money in the offense when they have a top 5 offense from a scoring standpoint. You're 31st in the league in defense right now, scoring defense. So that's probably the side of the ball you got to start writing checks for, is upgrading your defense and getting it to where it's at least a middle of the road defense. So you're not losing. I mean, they won a game 38-35 yesterday. They've lost games this year where they score in the 30s. That gets really old really quick, and then it's nice to have gaudy stats and 4,000-yard passers and 1,000-yard receivers, but ultimately want to get back to the playoffs.
Yeah.
So they've got to get their defense better to make that happen.
Oh, Greg, you're just at 53. You're reminding me of my Marino days. Just watching him light it up, and then watching the defense get lit up after. And there's Marino in a shootout every single week in the 30s and the 40s, and losing plenty of those games in the 30s and the 40s because the defense wasn't up to snuff. I remember those days. Follow him on Twitter.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I said Duper and Clayton don't have much on Evans and Godwin this year in terms of 2 guys just running wild through secondaries. But like you said, if you want to win playoff games, you better have a defense too.
You better play some D, man. I remember those days. They were painful. Greg does an excellent job for you Buccaneers fans. Follow him on Twitter at Greg Auman and catch his work there at The Athletic. Greg, as always, you're a stud. Thank you for taking some time, my man.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate it.
You got it, baby. There you go. Greg Auman, man. Good stuff there, as always, for you Bucs fans. And I still don't trust him. Man, he's just a knucklehead.